Today I'm here to present to you with Kostis the case for ArgoCD and CdEvents integration. What we're going to get to today, kind of the coverage, is kind of why are we here, what's kind of the background and developer experience, what is CdEvents, where is CdEvents used today, how do we envision ArgoCD and CdEvents working together, some demos, examples, as well as other use cases and other resources. So I'm Luke Phillips, a soon-to-be-announced principal engineer. I will tell you more next week all about that, but things are changing for me, and let me hand it over to...
Hey, my name is Kostis. I'm working as a developer advocate for Octopus Deploy, but I'm also a member of the Argo team focusing on ArgoCD and Argo rollouts. I will start with this presentation with a very sad story, developer experience for developers when teams adopt GitOps. So if you look behind the scenes, when teams adopt GitOps, we say to them, hey, your CI process now must stop when you push your image, and this is just what the CI system will do. And then you will install ArgoCD in your cluster, and it will monitor your Git repo and make deployments, and everybody will be happy. You will avoid configuration drift and get all the benefits of the GitOps principles. But if you ask developers, they are not happy. Before, they had a single system. In this case, I'm using Jenkins, but it can be TeamCity, CircleCI, or anything else. And they had a full picture of everything. They could see a commit all the way from the start until it reaches production, and they were super happy. Now you say to them, oh, no, you need two dashboards now. So your CI process is only in the CI system, and then you need to go to ArgoCD and look at the CD process. And two dashboards is the minimum. They might need to use many other systems, so maybe they need to look at unit tests, integration tests, security scans, their metrics. So the life of developers is miserable after you adopt GitOps. So can we do better? And yes, we can. But in order to do this, we need to think ourselves not as CI/CD experts. Yes, CI/CD is important. We need to think that we are the application delivery team. Our job is to help developers deploy applications. That's the thing. CI/CD is just one process. It's important, yes, but it's not the only thing. So how can we improve? Let's finish this problem and see about CdEvents.
Thank you, Kostis. So again, yeah, if you look at that total landscape of application delivery tools, it's not just Argo, it's your CI systems, your artifacts, all these kind of things. And trying to integrate all those together is going to be a challenge. So we're starting to look at a thing called CdEvents. What is CdEvents? It's a common specification for CI and CD events, as well as continuous delivery, operations, testing, things like that. It's just a specification. It's just a way to describe how you do messaging. So it's tool agnostic, vendor neutral. That comes from the CDF, Continuous Delivery Foundation, and again, just a language, not a tool. To really simplify what is CdEvents, much like containers have simplified how we ship software, CdEvents standardizes the message and how we communicate, or how we can standardize the events coming out of all of our application delivery tools, out of ArgoCD, CircleCI, Tekton, all of those kind of things. What does a CdEvent message look like? Here's the raw details. Memorize this if you can. It's what happened, where it happened, as well as a custom data payload that you can fill in with any of the details about your application. But really, it's kind of messaging. You can see at the top some identifiers, some timestamps, things like that, as well as links and other helpful references. Saying from my application at this time, this event happened, where it happened, the lower subject details, getting into what environment and what application and any other relevant information. We're kind of constructing together this message. What kind of messages are there in CdEvents? There's all sorts of events that are captured, whether it's continuous integration, core pipeline events, source control, continuous deployment, testing, operations, and things like that. What we're going to really focus on today, specifically with ArgoCD, is looking at continuous deployment events as well as operation events. So walking through a possible use case, possible pipeline example, and again, thinking back to that landscape of all the possible tools here, what I'm describing to you is a workflow that is agnostic of any tool if they're all emitting the same kind of events. So you might have a developer, they create their branch, in their Git system, they create a branch and they create a commit. So that turns into branch created event, branch initial commit event. If you're trying to do DORA measurements of your entire enterprise, you can start measuring now at this point. This will then trigger your CI system, which might create a pipeline run started and pipeline finished event that will then move into your build system, whatever tool it is. That build system can emit an artifact publish event. Then you get into your deploy system, service deployed. This could be ArgoCD emitting this event. And then finally, your application moves into operations and monitoring. It might detect, your operations tools might detect an incident, or ArgoCD detects an incident. It can emit that incident detected, as well as possibly ArgoCD or another workflow for service rollback. At the end here, really, it's all these events being emitted in a standard structure of what action, when, and where. So why is CdEvents so important? What's the appeal to CdEvents? Is really these three main areas of your integration, complexity, observability gaps, and vendor lock-in. Rather than trying to find the perfect tool that can do everything, or trying to figure out how tools can integrate together, all of the different tools in your enterprise, if I asked any of you what is in your enterprise of CI, CD, and application delivery tools, you're going to have a wide range of possibilities. If they're all emitting standard CdEvent messages, then we can kind of really solve a lot of, or not have to worry about integration challenges or be able to replace vendors if we need to, things like that. And so where else is CdEvents used?
So you might wonder who is using CdEvents, and you can see the list there, and instantly there is this name Flax. So Flax has it, okay? We don't have it, we are behind, keep this in mind. And every time, something like this happens, each project is copying each other. Most of the projects are part of the CD Foundation, which is not, a coincidence, but it's like major players. It's not like just a random project in a random GitHub repo. Harbor is adding support right now, and we are here today because we want ArgoCD to be part of this list. As far as companies are concerned, there are major companies behind CdEvents that they like the spec and they are investing in the spec, and we have placed Apple in the middle because Apple really, really, really likes CdEvents. So if Apple thinks it's a good idea, maybe at the very least we need to think about it as well. So the point here is that even if you hear about CdEvents for the first time, it's something that is actively being used today in production by major companies and major projects, and we have to at least evaluate, how it works with ArgoCD and adopt it. So let's see how these two can work together.
Thank you. Yeah, so some of the possible situations in which we could be using ArgoCD and CdEvents together. The most basic example would be ArgoCD taking the notifications controller, writing a custom webhook endpoint, and just writing out the JSON body in a CdEvent spec standard, and just having ArgoCD emit its events to a CdEvents receiver. That receiver is any kind of CdEvent standard API or webhook kind of endpoint. Your enterprise might already have an existing messaging system or event manager system, whether that's Kafka or a message queue or NATS or anything like that. Easily Argo could, that same notification controller can emit its events to that message event manager, and then that can forward along everything to your CdEvent receiver. As well, why not have Argo listen to CdEvents? Argo already listens to a couple of events today via webhooks. These are specifically towards Git events for applications triggering the Git synchronization as well as the app set controller. But why not combine all of it together? So imagine that you might have a database management system that emits events related to what it's done towards a database upgrade. Argo's listening to the events, and it might trigger off of that, and that might trigger ArgoCD to cause a synchronization, refresh manifests, and to run a job, some kind of smoke test, and then finally that ArgoCD emits another event saying the service upgraded. So you could have ArgoCD both sending and receiving. And so we're going to get into a demo. We're going to get into screenshots of a demo because I'm not ever going to risk a live demo anymore. Specifically, in our example here, we're going to take that first use case where we've taken ArgoCD, we've taken the notification controller, and we've mapped out how to construct a CD event message. We kind of handcrafted the body and everything like that. What we're sending it to is a receiver, specifically a tool called CdViz. This is an open source tool for kind of your hello world of CD events. It receives messages and presents a nice dashboard around that. If you want to follow along at home, we have this QR code and link where you can see if you actually want to run the demo, feel welcome to do that. So again, specifically, you can see here just standard template YAML for ArgoCD. We've created a new template for a CD events webhook. We're mapping through the context, the subject, custom data. You can see all of the Argo various templating components of that. So this is, again, the very simplistic set of demonstration here, how we might do this mapping. And to prove it's real, here's the logs out of our notification controller, where you can see CD events being triggered by all of our various Argo applications in our demo environment. You can see real messages getting sent and accepted to this CdViz, CD events receiver. And what does CdViz look like? What do some of these events look like? Here's an example dashboard from CdViz. This is just a raw dashboard that shows you all the messages coming in. You can inspect all the data. You can look at, like, say, this custom data field we have pulled in where it's bringing in Argo-specific data. And it's also, counting up all the events that have happened in your enterprise. Nothing here is unique to ArgoCD. This is counting up all the events, service deployed, service incidents, things like that. You can envision across your entire enterprise everything that is standard CD event type messages. Another example use case is the artifacts dashboard. So you can see how an artifact progresses its way through environments as they get deployed to different ArgoCD applications and environments. And then finally, here's one of the most important slides. If you want to take a picture of this one, we highly recommend. This is in the bottom right-hand corner where you're seeing all these events coming throughout your system, the instance when they're happening. All the blue bars are service upgrades, service deploys, the red lines for service incidents and service resolved. You can click into any of them. You can see what environment, where it happened, where it came from, whether it's Argo or things like that. And you can envision this is any event in your enterprise. It's not just my Argo events, or it's not just my Tecton events or things like that. CD events starts to allow you to aggregate and build the dashboards around all these kind of things. The second most important slide we want you to take a picture of is this one. We've created a pull request in ArgoCD. We've created a document where we've taken this demo and all of our mapping and our proposal of how we envision mapping ArgoCD events and how they map into CD events and how we envision constructing the messages there. And so we want to start the discussion. We'd really love to have your feedback on that. Check out this markdown document. Please leave your comments on that, and so we can kind of further refine this and where we want to go with possibly integrating ArgoCD to CD events. But that was just one use case. Let's talk about some others with Kostis.
So we have seen how ArgoCD and CdEvents can work together, and now let's see some actual use cases of the things we would like to do with integration. So a very simple example is when a team adopts ArgoCD, you have to answer the basic question: do you want an ArgoCD per cluster, or you want a central ArgoCD instance that controls other clusters? And you can also get some control planes from commercial companies. But with CdEvents, you could create your own control plane. So have individual ArgoCD instances per cluster where they emit different events about what they do. And then you have your own custom dashboard that selects events, filters events, and gives you exactly what you want to see. So it's your own, let's say, universal dashboard for all your ArgoCD instances. This is also a very popular open issue in ArgoCD right now. People want a common dashboard for many instances. Coming back to the initial story about developers, we can give back developers what they want. So here I have a single pipeline or a single dashboard where they can see how a commit starts all the way from the beginning until the end. And this is just a CdEvents dashboard. It's showing what other systems are doing when they meet events. So in the case of deployments, yes, we will have ArgoCD create the events, but for CI, we should be able to change different systems, for testing different systems. But developers get always the same thing, just a universal dashboard, and we are even free in theory to change individual tools behind the scenes, and if they are CdEvents compatible, nothing is changing for developers. Another use case, which is very popular, and there are open issues on both Argo rollouts and ArgoCD for this, is when you want to do a complex deployment, where let's say you have many applications or microservices. So in this example, I have 2 applications, and each one has a front end and a back end, and I want to deploy all 4 of them at the same time. But if any of them fails, I want to roll back all 4 of them. So even with Argo rollouts, it's pretty easy to roll back a single service, but we don't have something smarter today for this scenario. So you could imagine if we add CdEvents integration, I can have a CdEvent that says that this system failed, and then I can have an external orchestrator that monitors the CdEvents and makes a decision and says, okay, I will roll back all 4 services at the same time. Another use case, which was actually a personal problem when I was working in a big gaming company, and I have seen this in real life, is when you have, again, multiple services and you deploy one of them. And what everybody is doing today is you deploy a service and you run the tests, like the integration test or the smoke test for that service. That's fine. But I want to do something smarter. I want to run the test for the service that was just deployed, plus the tests of the dependencies. So in this case, let's say I'm deploying the middle service, the auth, and I'm going to run the integration test for that. And then I'm going also to emit a CdEvent of service deployed, and all the other systems or an external orchestrator will catch it, and they will make a decision. So maybe a portal, intranet, and store will also catch this event and say, okay, something changed in our dependency, and we'll run our integration tests, while the other system will just ignore the event and say this does not affect us. The last scenario is preview environments. If you're familiar with a PR generator from ArgoCD, you have the capability today to create preview or ephemeral environments for developers, but it's pretty limited in the sense that it only focuses on source code. Like you monitor the pull request of the source code, and when a developer creates a pull request, you create an application in ArgoCD which contains just the feature for that developer. This is great, but sometimes maybe I want to create preview environments for other things. So maybe I want to create a preview environment when a database migration script is running, or when an external system that I don't control is upgraded. For these scenarios, they are not covered today by the PR generator, but if we had CdEvents integration, we would say that each of those triggers could be a CdEvent, and then again, either ArgoCD or an external system could catch them and create a preview environment for that developer. Because as I said in the beginning, in the end, we want to think outside of the box. CI/CD is important, but remember our job is to help developers. So we want to deliver applications, and this includes preview environments, testing, monitoring, incidents, and everything else that CdEvents allow us to model in a vendor-neutral way. So at the very least, think about how you can connect your different systems, even when you have different vendors, different teams, maybe legacy systems. CdEvents is the way to create a common interface, a common communication interface across all of them.
Thanks. And so to conclude, really, again, thinking about the whole domain of application delivery, how do you get all these tools to kind of emit these standard messages and interoperate rather than trying to figure out integration? CdEvents itself is just a standard for cloud communication. It's already supported in a variety of tools out there, Flux, specifically Jenkins, Spinnaker, and others. We have opened a pull request of a proposal, again, in the ArgoCD repo. Please check that out. Please provide your feedback. It's pretty wide open as far as how we might want to map things, and so I'd love to hear what other people think, ideas, those kind of things. So check those out. If you want to discuss as well with either of us, you can find us in the ArgoCD Slack channel in CNCF, just at Luke or at Kostis, and these are other ways to connect with us as well. And as well, we have some links to our demos and resources, and thank you again for coming today. Thank you.
We have time for questions, if there are any. Yes, you need to go to the microphone.
There's one way over here.
Okay, there was here. Yeah, it's mainly for the recording. Sorry.
The people online will hear you, yes.
So the question I had was, this is really great, and I think it's going to help a lot of teams that are working together, but a lot of the nomenclature and the initial things were very close to Argo events, like the event source and the webhook sensor trigger. So is that integrated with Argo events, or is this something completely different?
I think it was on the slide that Argo events already had support.
Yeah, Argo events, I believe, has already incorporated some of these CD event standards.
It's the last in the list.
Yeah, so it is there. That's certainly like a, I don't know, controversial topic of like, should ArgoCD should it have a notification controller, or should it just hand that off to Argo events to handle all of that kind of thing?
Right.
So yeah, there is certainly some overlap, and that is a larger discussion, I'm sure, for the Argo project as a whole.
Got it. Yeah, that's what I was noticing. Okay, thank you.
At the very least, if you look at the original events here, you can see the continuous deployment events like service deployed. For me, this is something that ArgoCD should create. Like maybe, it passes through intermediate systems, but the source of truth on when something was deployed should be ArgoCD.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more? Microphone, you know the drill.
I can run it around for people. Apparently.
Hey, just curious, because I'm too lazy to read the proposal. If Argo is receiving events, is that going to respect Argo RBAC in the sense that you can say, events from this source has this permissions, events from that source has a different set of permissions, et cetera?
I think it would be great if you left that question on our pull request. My design proposal has only covered how we send events so far. I've not thought how to do that. I mean, I've put the placeholder saying, what happens when Argo receives it? I don't know what to do with that yet, but that is a great concern. Like, what is
because multi-tenant pipelines, for example, where you've got different organizations or different developers using different pipelines,
Right.
Those pipelines should only work with their applications, right?
Right.
From an event-driven perspective. Okay, thank you. I'll do that.
Thank you.
Essentially, these slides show like the order of how we're thinking things. So first, ArgoCD as a producer of events, then let's say a more generic solution, and then finally the receiver, which is, let's say, a bit more complex or more strange.
Other questions?
Okay, finished. Thank you.